Hey, Steve Saretsky here. I want to put together a quick video on the mid-November market update. I just did a blog on my website, so I'm going to put the description for that post in the description below. So you can go check that out. It's got some graphs. You can look at all the numbers and all the stats that I'm looking at from the real estate board. So basically, going to keep this really simple. I'm going to look at the real estate board of Greater Vancouver, just the whole area. So I'm not going to break it down into sub areas such as Vancouver and Richmond, that sort of thing. Going to keep it really simple. Obviously, we want to talk first about the detached market. It's now been a buyer's market for 3 months. I've talked about this before. It looks like November is going to be no different, so we'll now be entering the fourth consecutive month in a buyer's market. So what the numbers are telling me now, what I've done is I've gone back and looked at. So we have from November 1st to the 15th. I've gone back over the last 10 years to compare how the 1st to the 15th has done historically over the last 10 years. So I've looked at new listings, and I've looked at how many sales that have occurred in that time frame. So for this year, November 1st to the 15th, 2016, the detached sales are 36% below the 10-year average. So sales are 36% below the 10-year average. While inventory is actually 5.2%. So new listings is 5.2% below the average. So you have sales are 36% below average, while new listings are actually 5% below as well. So what that tells me is that the demand is just simply not there. Despite low inventory, there's just no sales happening. So it makes you kind of wonder, okay, well, what if we had even more listings, a flood? What if we had higher than normal listings come on? Probably be even fewer. It probably would push prices down further, obviously. As for the townhouse market, townhouse sales are now 12% below historical normals. However, inventory is 16% below as well. So what's happening right now in the townhouse market is prices have shifted a little bit, but because there's so little inventory, it's still giving sellers the upper hand, because there's so few for buyers to choose from. They end up still competing sometimes, so it's keeping a bit of a firm on the prices. So as for the condo market, it's roughly the same in the condo market as well, but condo sales again are below the 10-year average for sales. It's roughly about 3% below, 3% below the 10-year average. But inventory is almost 10% below average. So again, it kind of makes you wonder, okay, if there's an influx of inventory, that will be the catalyst that starts pushing prices down, because it gives buyers more to choose from. And again, I don't think the demand is there, because sales are below. Like we set records last year and parts of this year for sales. Despite inventory being at all-time lows, we set record highs for sales. So if there's an influx in inventory, then that will just push on prices even further. And again, it's that old kind of psychology thing that I've talked about before. Obviously, condos and townhouses have done really well in the last 6 months. They've lagged behind the detached market. Sellers are reluctant to put their homes in the market because obviously it's been looked like a really good investment. They made all this money, etc. Based on my conversations with buyers, sellers, and other realtors, is buyers right now, they're very reluctant on pulling the trigger. You can see that in the sales being below normal levels. But sellers are hesitant with the market. They think there's going to be a market rebound in the spring. So right now, a lot of sellers are holding off and not pulling the trigger. So what happens is there's always an uptick in inventory in the spring. Always. That's like the busiest time of the year. So my concern is if sellers are holding off right now in hopes of the spring market, you're then adding that inventory onto the spring market. Okay, so you're adding that inventory that normally would have listed in the winter. They're holding off to the spring, so they're going to add even more listings to what is normally an active spring market. Now the question is the demand going to be there in the spring? As of right now, the demand is not there. You can see that in the sales numbers. The only thing that's keeping prices where they are at is because of the low inventory levels. But again, you've seen already roughly about 10-15% price reductions on the detached, and that's because inventory levels are getting up to around normal levels, but there's no sales happening. So the question now becomes, okay, is that going to shift? When does that happen? When does that shift come to the condo and townhouse market? I don't think it's going to come anytime soon. Over the winter months, obviously those are very slow times. December starts to pick up a little bit in January, and February is where it really starts to take off. So again, the question is going to be, is the demand going to be there in the spring? Obviously there's a lot of factors right now that I don't think is gonna favor the seller in the spring. Obviously, mortgage rates are going up. We've seen that RBC just raised their mortgage rates. They're expected to go up even further over the next few months. So I think that obviously mortgage rates have a direct correlation to real estate prices. You're going to probably see more and more headlines talking about how real estate is slowing down in Vancouver. I think that's only going to play on the psychology of people here locally. It's a lot remains to be seen. There's a ton of changes. It seems like things are changing, a weekly basis. Again, now you have Trump getting in there. There's talks about inflation, the bond markets are imploding. Again, that's also adding to interest rate increases. States is likely going to increase their interest rates in December. So there's a ton of uncertainty right now. Obviously, everybody has to make their decisions on their own for what they foresee. I don't want to necessarily forecast the market. Again, I mean, most of you have seen my works and my videos. I'm not overly optimistic about the market favoring the seller come the spring, but that remains to be seen. So anyways, hope that helped.